Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion. Corrosion to her thighs. Erosion. Erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter. Baby's got it. Baby's got it. Corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning, Vietnam. It is a little after 10 o'clock here on Morning Extra. I'm your host, Uncle Warren. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion. Losing it like my virginity on my 40th birthday. Wait, what? That was a little too much to share. If you notice, we're just slightly a little late starting the show. Not that, we stay in the preparing live stream screen. That's hard to say. It's because we're also live on Substack too. So if you're on Substack, you can watch us there if you'd like. And there's a chat box there. You can chat and join our chat here. Part of the mix here with YouTube and Rumble and Facebook. So we got 4 options for you for your viewing pleasure. If you're not a fan of YouTube or Rumble or Facebook, head over to Substack. It's ExtraBulla.substack.com. I think the link's in the description down below. Happy Friday the 13th. That's right. Ka, poo, poo, poo. Instead of the second Friday the 13th in a row. We had one last one too. We got another one this year too. Maybe appropriately, it's in November, right? Right after, I believe it's the week after the midterms. So that's going to be a fun month. Yeah. Anywho, how's everybody doing? We got Mystery in the house. What's up, Mystery? CBC voter, good to see you, my friend. We've got Max Sarjay. Good to see you, Max. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. All well and good. And if you're watching this in the future where we have flying cars, hello to you as well. Just a programming note. Our buddies over at the Chicago Corner Network have been doing a series of Illinois candidates that are running for various offices, House, Senate, that sort of thing. Check out Chicago Corner Network. They've got another interview this afternoon at 3 p.m. Central, I believe, 4 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, it's good stuff, good quality information. If you're into the electoral politics thing, I think you might enjoy that. Aw, Nice to see you too, Mystery. You're so sweet. You are very sweet. There's no mystery about your sweetness. See what I did there? Yeah. I hope you're not lactose intolerant from all that cheese. Yeah, so anyway, our buddies over there, I just want to give them a shout out for doing that. I think it's good stuff. It's good, and they're good conversations too. These politicians don't seem to be wooden, spouting the same old political speech. It's they kind of get into it. A lot of them, a lot of leftist policies, if you're into leftist policies, and not the ridiculous shit either. So yeah, that'll be 4 p.m. Eastern on Chicago Corner Network. Check it out today if you got a chance. But we've got news for you here. As always, we always have news, and it's mostly bad because the world's going to shit. It's from the Libertarian Institute. Kyle Anzalone. Israeli defense minister threatens to take Lebanese territory if Hezbollah doesn't halt attacks. Just a reminder that the Lebanese government and Hezbollah are two totally different things, right? They're in the same area, but it's more Hezbollah is more of the rebel alliance in Lebanon. Just I'm sure you knew that, but I just wanted to remind you of that. You think I'm sick because I think I got diarrhea of the mouth. I know, right? I haven't heard diarrhea of the mouth in so long. That's like my old man used to say that. He's like, yeah, that guy won't stop talking. He's got diarrhea of the mouth. CBC, did I shout you out? If I didn't, I'm sorry, my friend. I'm shouting you out now. So, anywho, so Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz threatened to seize Lebanese territory if Beirut does not prevent Hezbollah from attacking Israel. Hezbollah launched heavy barrages toward the state of Israel yesterday. The IDF responded forcefully in the Dahia southern suburbs of Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold, and against Hezbollah targets across Lebanon, Katz stated on Wednesday. I warned the president of Lebanon that if the Lebanese government does not know how to control the territory and prevent Hezbollah from threatening the northern communities and firing at Israel, we will take the territory and do it ourselves. Yeah, Israel is good at taking territory. Yeah. So that's not I don't think that's a light threat there. Cross-border attacks between Israel and Hezbollah started after the Hamas attack on October 7th, 2023. Israel conducted a massive bombing campaign and used terrorists to kill Hezbollah's leaders. In November 2024, Hezbollah agreed to a ceasefire with Israel. Hezbollah agreed to it. I guess Israel agreed to it in theory, but in practice, not so much. However, Tel Aviv has violated the ceasefire by continuing the bombing and refusing to withdraw its forces from Lebanon. Until the U.S. and Israel's attack on Iran, Hezbollah did not launch any new attacks on Israel. Following the assassination of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Hezbollah launched large salvos of missiles at Israel, including some on Wednesday, too. They knocked the hell out of them. Tel Aviv has responded by escalating the bombing of southern Lebanon and other places. We'll get to that. Israel has pushed for the Lebanese military to disarm Hezbollah, which is a Shia group in Lebanon that operates outside of the control of the central government. If Beirut attempted to take Hezbollah's weapons, a civil war could break out in Lebanon. So basically, damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're the Lebanese government. If I were the Lebanese government, I'd probably go all in on Hezbollah, because even, like they said, when they had the ceasefire, Israel still shoots at them. Yeah, so, what? Okay, thank you. You can go away, go. Meanwhile, Israel attacked central Beirut in escalation of deadly assault on Lebanon. This is the central Beirut neighborhood of Bashura yesterday. Israel has carried out a new wave of attacks on the Lebanese capital, Beirut, sending enormous plumes of black smoke billowing up over parts of the city. The latest Israeli strikes on Thursday targeted central Beirut's Bashur neighborhood, as we told you, as well as the southern suburbs. The Israeli military also issued a warning to evacuate a building in Zukak al-Blat, another area in the city center. The targeting of central Beirut marks an escalation in a week and a half of intensified Israeli bombing across Lebanon, which has killed at least 687 people and wounded more than 1,500, according to the Lebanese Ministry of Public Health. Lebanese authorities said more than 800,000 people have been forcibly displaced due to the violence, which began on March 2nd after Hezbollah launched rockets towards Israeli territory following the start of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Yeah, that car got fucked up. The Israeli military has launched a widespread aerial and ground assault against its northern neighbor, describing the offensive as a campaign against Hezbollah. But you know how that goes. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They just go after anything in the path. Everything is Hezbollah to them. Everything is Hamas to them. It doesn't matter. The Lebanese armed group has responded with waves of rocket strikes against Israel, including a large salvo that was launched on Wednesday, as we told you, in coordination with Iran. The UN and humanitarian groups said Lebanese civilians, including hundreds of thousands who have sought emergency shelter after being forced out of their homes, are bearing the brunt of the escalating conflict. Many of those who were forced to flee southern Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburbs, an area known as Dahia, have been staying in schools turned shelters with relatives or in tents along the waterfront. At least 12 people were killed in an Israeli double-tap strike earlier on Thursday in the seafront area of Ramlet al-Baida, where displaced families were sleeping in tents. Separately, Lebanon's national news agency also reported that an Israeli drone strike on a Lebanese university building in Hadath near Beirut killed 2 academics. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith said the country is grappling with a worsening displacement crisis with 90% of the government shelters full. People who are in those shelters have already seen their homes blown up, particularly those from southern suburbs of Beirut and southern Lebanon, so they don't have homes to go back to, Smith reported from the capital. Many people are day laborers and can't earn any salary, so people are without money, without a home to go back to, and this campaign of Israel's and this fight between Israel and Hezbollah show no indication of ending soon. Yeah, so, and we're going to get to the Iran stuff here in just a second, too, but this is part of the greater regional war that Iran was talking about. Iran said they're not going to limit this just to Israel. They're going after the U.S. bases in the Gulf states around them. And, of course, you have Hezbollah in Lebanon, but you also have the Iraqi resistance in Iraq who are on the side of Iran as well. Meanwhile, you have Israel in the U.S. I believe the U.K. is providing some sort of help now. It's a hot mess, literally and figuratively. So, it's probably not going to end anytime soon, to the chagrin of a lot of people. Staying in Israel, Muslim countries condemned Israel's unjustified closure of Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's the Temple Mount Mosque, I believe. I could be wrong. Don't at me, as they used to say. 8 Muslim majority countries have condemned Israel's unjustified closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, saying Israel has no sovereignty over the revered site and must lift the restrictions immediately. In a joint statement released on Wednesday, the foreign ministers of Egypt, Indonesia, Jordan, Pakistan, Qatar, I've heard it both ways. I like Qatar because it almost sounds like guitar. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE criticized Israel's decision to block access to the mosque compound and the surrounding old city. The minister said the restrictions constituted a flagrant violation of international law. What? Israel breaking international law? You never hear about that. Including international humanitarian law, the historical and legal status quo, and the principle of unrestricted access to places of worship. But they're the greatest democracy in the Middle East. Bing! They also described the measures as illegal and unjustified and condemned what they said were continued Israeli provocative actions against Muslim worshippers. The ministers affirmed their absolute rejection and condemnation of this illegal and unjustified measure, the statement said, adding that Israel has no sovereignty over occupied Jerusalem or its Islamic and Christian holy sites. Israeli police announced earlier this week that all religious sites in the Old City, including Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Western Wall, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, I never could pronounce that word, sepulchre, the holy place, would remain closed for security reasons following Israel's launch of airstrikes on Iran alongside the U.S., an escalation that has triggered a broader regional war. Authorities said the closure was necessary to safeguard public safety and human life. The restrictions have effectively barred Palestinians from accessing Al-Aqsa during Ramadan, when tens of thousands would normally gather at the compound for Friday prayers. The ministers urged Israel to immediately reopen the mosque's gates and lift restrictions on access to the Old City, calling on the international community to pressure Israel to halt what they described as ongoing violations. They reiterated that the entire Al-Aqsa compound is exclusively for Muslim worshippers, and that the Jerusalem Endowments and Al-Aqsa Mosque Affairs Department, affiliated with Jordan's Ministry of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, holds legal authority over the site. Again, apologies for butchering these names. The closure follows a series of tightening restrictions on Muslim worship at the compound during Ramadan. Earlier this month, Israeli authorities banned Friday prayers at Al-Aqsa, citing the security situation linked to the war in Iran, even as Jewish Purim celebrations were allowed to proceed elsewhere in the city. So celebrations for me, not for thee, apparently. Palestinians and religious authorities said the move effectively emptied the mosque of worshippers during one of the busiest periods of the Islamic calendar. Palestinian officials have accused Israel of using the regional conflict as a pretext to impose unprecedented restrictions on Muslim access to the complex. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the continued closure represents a blatant violation of Palestinian rights, while Hamas described it as a dangerous historical precedent and a violation of freedom of worship. So, Israel not afraid of poking the bear at all, because they're assholes, and they love to trigger these people as much as possible, because fear is one of the things they use to control people. But that's only going to last for so long, especially with Iran just blowing the hell out of Israel at this point. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's get to our coverage of war in Iran. And we have a few items here to kind of updates to tell you about. So in his first statement, Iran's new leader says Strait of Hormuz will remain closed and attacks on U.S. bases will continue. Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini, who replaced his slain father as the new supreme leader of Iran, issued his first statement on Thursday, where he said the Strait of Hormuz would remain closed and vowed Iranian attacks on U.S. bases in the region would continue. Certainly, the leverage of blocking the Strait of Hormuz must also continue to be used, Khomeini said in his message, which was issued as a written statement and read on Iranian TV. He suggested that Iran could open other fronts in the war and vowed there would be revenge for Iranians who have been killed, including more than 100 girls and boys who were killed by a U.S. strike on an elementary school in the opening hours of the war. So we'll tell you more about that later, how they've been deny, and now it's like they can't deny it anymore. Pardon me one second. We've been having weird weather. Like I said, it was like 60 one day, and then it snowed a couple of days ago. It's crazy. The retaliation we have in mind is not only related to the martyrdom of the great leader of the revolution. Rather, every member of the nation who is killed by the enemy becomes a separate case in the file of retaliation, Khomeini said. Of course, a limited portion of this retaliation has already taken concrete form, but until it is fully realized, this file will remain open above the others. We will be especially sensitive regarding the blood of our children. Therefore, the crime the enemy deliberately committed against the Shajare Tayyebe school in Manab and certain similar cases holds a particular place in this process of accountability, he said. The Iranian leader addressed regional countries, saying that Iran wants good relations with its neighbors, but will continue targeting U.S. bases as long as they remain. From now on, we will again be compelled to continue doing this if necessary, although we still believe in the importance of maintaining friendly relations with those neighboring countries, he said. I believe the Pezeshkian, the president, had apologized to these states, telling them, look, we're not trying to bomb your countries. We're trying to bomb these U.S. bases that are in your countries. And I guess that's that nice little subtle hint, like, maybe you shouldn't have U.S. bases in your country. Just saying. Could be wrong. Khamenei also addressed the killing of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who ruled Iran from 1989 until he was hit by an Israeli strike on February 28th. Mojtaba Khomeini lost other family members in the attack, including his wife, mother, and sister. His mother was, she had survived, but then succumbed to injuries later, I believe. Leader, with your departure, you have inflicted a heavy grief upon the hearts of all of us. You always longed for this end, and finally the Almighty granted it to you while you were reciting the Holy Quran on the morning of the 10th day of the blessed month of Ramadan, Khomeini said. So far, the younger Khomeini hasn't made any public appearances since he was named the new leader by Iran's Assembly of Experts. After he was appointed, massive rallies were held in Tehran and other major cities to show support for the new leader, one of the many signs that the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign is not bringing about regime change. And again, we've talked about this before. The U.S. And their hubris was thinking, okay, well, you cut off the head and that's it, and we can easily take over Iran, easy peasy, right? But that's not how that works. Not in Iran, especially a country that's been planning for this for almost 50 years. Yeah, meanwhile, Netanyahu is hiding somewhere, doing the Zelensky reading in front of green screens, probably in Berlin. His plane made it to Berlin, but they said, oh, there was no officials on board. And it's like, what? Why would they just fly a plane over there? Empty. Their propaganda and their lies just do not work. So U.S.-Israeli strike over 20,000 non-military targets across Iran. And I got this from, I use the cradle, thecradle.co, the cradle meaning the cradle of humanity. That's what the Middle East is, they say, even though technically humanity really started in Africa. But anyway, but they do good work. I believe they're independent. I don't think they're corporate owned or anything. As always, be skeptical of all your news sources, this one included. But I highly recommend the Cradle if you're looking for foreign affairs news like that. And they do a live show every day, too. The U.S. and Israeli bombing campaign in Iran has caused massive damage to civilian infrastructure in 2 weeks of war, causing Iranians opposed to the country's Islamic government to rethink their previous support for foreign-backed regime change. The Iranian Red Crescent reported on March 12th, yesterday, that 21,720 civilian units have been damaged in airstrikes to date. Of these, 17,353 are residential units, and 4,122 are commercial units. Israel has now openly acknowledged the strategy of hitting non-military infrastructure. Le Monde observe, the outlet. The French newspaper noted that the Israeli military's Persian language account announced on March 10th a massive wave of attacks against the terrorist regime's infrastructure in Tehran. Night after night, Tehran residents who chose to remain in the capital describe extremely intense bombardments. Lamond wrote. Schools, hospitals, and fuel depots are now the targets of the military campaign, which Israel and the U.S. initially claimed was to dismantle Iran's nuclear program. Yeah, remember? This is, shades of Venezuela, where they said, oh, we got to take him out. He's like a big drug dealer. And then they go in and take his oil. And here it's like, well, they got to take out their nuclear program, and really they're just trying to wipe them all off the map. Israel loves some genocide. Hospitals and health facilities across Iran have suffered damage as U.S.-Israeli strikes intensify, according to Iranian Deputy Health Minister Ali Jafarian. As a result, medical teams are struggling with a growing number of civilian casualties. Unfortunately, there are a lot of victims who are killed at the scene because the U.S. and Israel are carpet bombing civilian infrastructure, Jafarian told Al Jazeera, adding that at least 1,395 people have been killed. While hitting civilian structures, U.S. forces have been unable to locate all of Iran's missile launch sites, the Telegraph reported yesterday. U.S. officials speaking with the British newspaper said that Iran had kept many missiles in reserve to strike at important battlefield targets like the American radars designed to identify threats. The strikes on civilian targets are causing Iranians opposed to the country's Islamic government to rethink their desire for U.S.-backed regime change, the Financial Times reported yesterday after speaking with residents in the capital, Tehran. We should not have been bombed, our city, our country. This should never have happened. Why was there a clean, bloodless regime change in Venezuela, but not here? One resident whose apartment in central Tehran was hit during the strikes. Well, I could answer that because Venezuela had inside people to help facilitate that, and Iran does not. Iran is a super sovereign country that, they're very paranoid people, and probably for good reason, too. Civilian areas are also affected because attacks target police stations, military sites, and government officials in their homes. An Iranian sociologist critical of the government told the Financial Times that nationalist sentiment is rising as the war drags on, just as during the 12-day war launched by Israel and the U.S. on Iran last June. Fear of Iran's destruction is increasingly uniting people as they worry about the consequences of such a large-scale conflict, the sociologist said. On the first day of the war, the U.S. struck a girls' elementary school in Manab. We told you about that, killing at least 170. When asked about the bloody strike, Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth sought to blame Iran. I heard that it was their own missiles. Their missiles went astray apparently twice and hit the dumbest lies. I mean, it's just, come on. But the New York Times reported on Thursday that, according to an ongoing investigation, Washington is responsible for the massacre of the schoolgirls. And we got that in our propaganda watch coming up later in the show. Okay. Yeah. So that, and we'll save the rest of that for later when we talk about that. The lies of the U.S. Meanwhile, the UN says 3.2 million people now displaced in Iran as a result of the war. The number of people displaced within Iran since the start of the U.S. and Israel's war on the country has reached 3.2 million, according to the UN's refugee agency, UNHCR. The number represents between 600,000 and 1 million households now temporarily displaced owing to the war that began February 28th. This figure is likely to continue rising as hostilities persist, marking a worrying escalation in humanitarian needs. Ayaki Ito, the agency's emergency coordinator for the Middle East, said. A large number of those affected are people fleeing the capital, Tehran, with 100,000 leaving in the first 2 days of the war. Many of those affected already have refugee status after fleeing countries such as Afghanistan, with Iran being a longtime host of 1.65 million people forced to flee the war in that country. The growing humanitarian crisis in Iran reflects a broader pattern of displacement across the region since the war began. Across the affected countries, nearly 25 million people were already refugees, internally displaced, or people who had only recently returned home, making further displacement almost inevitable, the UN agency said. Good morning, Laine. Good to see you. In Lebanon, the number of people forced to flee their homes since Israel began its bombardment has reached 800,000, according to aid agencies, with almost 100,000 sheltering in 440 collective sites, according to the Lebanese government. The UNHCR's most recent figures show at least 33,600 Syrians and some 3,000 Lebanese have crossed into Syria. Yeah, so to say this war is a hot mess, like I said before, is really an understatement. With the displacement of the people in Iran and Lebanon, and of course, I didn't have it here, but the ongoing settler attacks in the West Bank and continued attacks on citizens in Gaza too. If Israel goes down, it's going to go down like a cornered cat, right? Scratching and clawing and taking out as many people as possible, for sure. So I know people have been saying, well, what's Yemen doing? What are the Houthis doing? What's Houthi and the Blowfish doing? Well, Houthi leader vows support for Iran, says group ready for any escalation. The leader of Yemen's Houthi movement, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, said on Thursday evening that his group was ready for any developments in the ongoing confrontation involving the U.S., Iran, and Israel, stressing that it would stand with Tehran against what he described as U.S.-Israeli aggression. So Yemen, of course, was aligned with Hamas during the genocide, or the continuing genocide going on there. So it would make sense that they would side with Iran in this case. In a televised speech broadcast by the group's Al Masira channel, he said, "From the beginning, we have stressed that the aggression against Iran is a targeting of the entire region and a war against Islam and Muslims." Al-Houthi added that the Houthis consider themselves directly concerned and would take a position alongside the Islamic Republic of Iran, saying the group stands with it against all our enemies. He also stressed that the movement was ready for all developments in this battle. According to al-Houthi, the attack on Iran aims to reshape the region and dominate what he referred to as the Middle East, while removing Iran as an influential Islamic power that, in his view, plays a major role in protecting the Muslim world. At the same time, he praised what he described as Iran's strong, effective, and destructive military response against the enemies, claiming that it had destroyed U.S. bases in the region and caused significant damage to Israel. Al-Houthi added that everyone in the region believes that if the enemy succeeded in their aggression against Iran, that they would seek to use the outcome to subjugate and impose their will on the rest of the region's people. Exactly, right? The U.S. not a big fan of Yemen after bombing boats during the genocide of Israel, or of Gaza by Israel, I should say. And he's right. Iran is like kind of like the Fonzie of the Middle East for the Muslims, right? Big, giant, mountainous country, highly advanced technology, and yeah, they kind of like look after their little brothers and sisters in the region. But then again, some of their little brothers and sisters in the region are hosting the big bad wolf, the United States, with their bases, and so Iran is blasting these bases. And I would assume that Yemen would jump in if Iran was starting to start, like run out of weaponry or something like that. But it doesn't look like Iran is going to run out of those hypersonic missiles anytime soon that are just unleashing sheer terror on Israel and these U.S. bases as well. If you didn't like AI before, you're probably going to really hate it now, as the Department of War using Palantir AI to pick targets in Iran. Again, going back to the Libertarian Institute. Also, antiwar.com. We use their site, too, for their news aggregation and journalism. I highly, if you're looking for real news, I highly suggest those two sites. The Pentagon is using an artificial intelligence system developed by Palantir to select targets in Iran. Some members of Congress are considering legislation to place restrictions and safeguards on the Department of War's use of AI. Oh, safeguards. You're so cute when you're little. They're not going to use safeguards. This guy's a madman. Two congressional sources speaking with NBC News confirmed the use of Palantir's AI for targeting and the potential bill. AI tools aren't 100% reliable. They can fail in subtle ways, and yet operators continue to overtrust them, said Representative Sarah Jacobs. We have a responsibility to enforce strict guardrails on the military's use of AI and guarantee a human is in the loop in every decision to use lethal force, because the cost of getting it wrong could be devastating for civilians and the service members carrying out these missions, she added. None of the members of Congress who spoke with NBC News wanted to prevent the Pentagon from using AI in the targeting process. Of course not. They probably get kickbacks from these AI companies too. Donations. The Department of War has claimed that humans remain the final decision makers on what the U.S. military will target. AI targeting has become increasingly common in warfare. The U.S. has used AI to help Ukraine identify targets, and Israel relied extensively on AI systems to determine who and what to bomb in Gaza. Although they really didn't need it, they just bombed everything. You don't need AI for that. You just bomb everything. So I don't even know what that's about. CENTCOM claims that U.S. forces have hit more than 5,500 targets in Iran. The U.S. has already bombed a number of civilian targets in Iran, as we told you, including the elementary school there in Sabia. Palantir's targeting system, dubbed Maven, relies on Anthropic's Claude. Anthropic has demanded that its AI not be used for targeting or mass surveillance, leading to retaliation from the White House. Of course, Anthropic and Palantir did not comment on the story. So, yeah, it's bad enough that you got humans bombing people, but then you're getting AI to target these places. Yeah, and it all goes by prompts, and that's a good point, Chuck. Instructing AI to maximize the cruelty is the point. Yeah. This is vicious. These people are sick. Just sick in the head. So a lot of people are like, okay, so how's this war going to affect us here at home? So how the war will on the Iran will impact the U.S. economy? Well, rising prices on the back of U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran are adding to the economic pressure facing U.S. consumers, despite efforts by Trump to paint the war as a success. On Wednesday, Trump declared, "We won in the first hour. It was over." Fucking mushmouth. Trump's declaration comes even as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, cutting off oil from the Gulf amid warnings from Iran, which continues to strike ships that oil could reach $200 per barrel. Oil prices spiked above $100 per barrel on Sunday, and again yesterday. On Thursday, the magnitude of the economic pressure on consumers will depend on how long the war lasts and, crucially, how soon shipping traffic can return to the Gulf. So basically what Iran is doing is none of these boats, none of these oil tankers are allowed to go through. And only certain ones have permission to go through. I think China has asked for permission. So they may be letting some through, but not everything. They've actually mined the strait too. If it drags on, and especially if it remains at this intensity, prices will be higher and more volatile for consumers, said Rachel Ziemba, an adjunct senior fellow. She got adjunct in the trunk. Sorry. At the think tank Center for a New American Security. Grok is Hexith's CO or Hexith, yeah, commanding him. Yeah, Grok too. What's up, Rondo? Good to see you, bud. If it ends quickly and it's a credible and stable end, the narrator says it wasn't a credible and stable end, then we could see prices fairly quickly normalizing. If the war lasts more than a few weeks, however, observers say the U.S. economy is more likely to see deepening impacts like 1970s style stagflation or a recession. The 70s. Lines at the gas pumps. I actually remember that. I remember seeing that on TV too. There's like, it was rough. On Thursday, the International Energy Agency said in a report that the war in the Middle East is creating the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. According to Sam Ori, who directs the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago, in the past, when oil prices have reached 4 to 5% of gross domestic product and stayed elevated, that's always triggered a recession. The U.S. will not hit that threshold as quickly as it would have in the 70s when its economy was more deeply dependent on foreign oil, Ori said, but added he expected a recession if prices remained above $140 a barrel for most of the year. Alternatively, the indefinite course of the Strait of Hormuz will so vastly exceed that number it would not take a year, he said. Ori, who used to run an oil shock war game for U.S. officials, said he would... An oil shock war game? Okay. You get that on like PlayStation or something? How you do that? Said he would have been laughed out of the room if he had proposed a scenario where the strait was closed for 6 months because many analysts see it as too big to fail. The old too big to fail. But Iran said, yes, not too big to fail. Try and come through here, motherfuckers. Boom, boom. Ori says that assessment is still likely, but recent developments are chipping away at that level of certainty. The Gulf, which separates the Arabian Peninsula and Iran, provides more than 1/5 of the world's oil supply via tanker ships through the Strait of Hormuz. The severity of that threat to the global economy is the strongest indicator that this is going to get resolved pretty fast because it's impossible to fathom what would happen if it didn't, Ori said. Well, Mr. Ori, or what was it? Was it Mr. Ori? I don't know. Well, Ori, you might want to stock up. Just saying. He added that the conflict has now entered a phase in which it may be moving out of U.S. control, especially as some countries have turned off the oil wells as they run out of storage. While those events have now been baked into oil prices, the things that he is on the lookout for include successful mining of the strait, some kind of structural blockage, or a battle space development that binds the U.S. into a longer, drawn-out conflict, outcomes that could signal a total loss of the strait for an unknown amount of time and create the conditions for a complete meltdown. The war is already driving petrol prices. Petro. This is a non-American site, so you say petro. The war is already driving gas prices up for consumers. Patrick DeHaan, who leads petroleum analysis for the app Gas Buddy, said that the national average as of Wednesday is now $3.59 per gallon, or 95 cents per liter. Up 65 cents since last month. The highest increases are near the coast, where U.S. petrol, diesel, and jet fuel supplies are more easily diverted to meet global demand, according to DeHaan. An end to the conflict could lower petrol prices within weeks, he said, but every week that this goes on, we could see another 25 to 40 cent increase every week. Mystery, I remember odd and even days, gas, the lines at stations were, well, yeah. Mystery, you're not that old, you don't know. Wink. We have some very mature people that watch this show, and it's good to know. Especially they can call me on my bullshit if I get something wrong. Robert Rogowski, another adjunct professor with adjunct in the trunk at Georgetown University School of Foreign Services, said lower income people in particular will pay the price for this inflationary burst. It's how all these things happen. Lower income people always pay the burden of it, or face the burden of it. Stephanie's smoking class today. What's up, lady? Good to see you. As the war continues, it will also nudge up prices for consumer goods. Shocking! I know, right? Petersen, chief analyst for freight intelligence platform Zanetta, said the backup at the Strait of Hormuz is already causing congestion at ports worldwide. In the short term, consumers... Oh, hello. Sorry. A little thing here. All right. A little off-screen stuff there. All right, I think we're good. All right. Okay. In the short term, consumers should not feel much of a pinch, Sand said, but if the conflict lasts for a month, some goods will be delayed, and of course, the price tag on those goods also goes up. Well, we're getting to, I think tomorrow will be the end of the second week of this, so half a month. The war also means that the Red Sea, mostly closed in 2025 due to Houthi attacks, the Houthis, will likely stay closed throughout 2026, Sand said. It was expected to reopen, which could have lowered consumer prices. Oil and oil byproducts from the Gulf are also used directly in consumer goods like plastics, pharmaceuticals, and fertilizers. Shortages now may mean higher prices later. Fertilizers from the Gulf, for example, are needed soon for spring planting. Delays could affect crops next year. The shortage of helium from the Gulf could also impact semiconductor manufacturing, delaying car manufacturing and other industries, Ziemba said, and also delaying having those squeaky high voices that you do when you inhale helium. You know what I'm saying? That's some good shit, y'all. Higher consumer prices could increase the risk of stagflation when stagnant economic growth occurs alongside high unemployment and high inflation. Yes, also hallmarks of the 1970s. That is how the U.S. economy responded to the oil price shocks back then. Severin Borenstein, faculty director of the Energy Institute at the University of California, Berkeley's Haas School of Business, that's a mouthful, said there's certainly concern about stagflation again. That combination of high inflation plus high unemployment, Borenstein said, is just really tough for the Fed to deal with. They can either juice the economy or slow it down, and the two problems call for opposite solutions, Borenstein said. This also sounds like what happened during the pandemic, too. You would think like an injection of funds to the people to try to keep the economy going, you know, like checks, sending out checks to kind of offset what's going on. Because they can do that. The government can do that. If you can spend $1.5 trillion on the military, they can totally do that shit. The Fed can lower interest rates to prompt spending and hiring, which can make inflation worse, or it can raise interest rates to lower inflation, which can slow hiring. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Ziemba said higher oil prices likely point to inflation remaining stickier, which means it's harder for the Fed to cut interest rates. As a result, mortgage rates and other long-term interest rates might be stuck at their current levels, Ziemba said. Mortgage rates, which were at 5.99% on February 27th, are up to 6.29% as of March 12th, which was yesterday. Even if the war ends tomorrow, it may already be accelerating long-term shifts or longer-term shifts. Rogowski said U.S. attacks on Iran and an injection of adrenaline into a realignment already underway as middle powers seek to reduce their reliance on the U.S. We'll tell you more about that, what they're doing with Russia. That realignment will affect our terms of trade, which will have a distinct impact on our economy, Rogowski said. David Coffey, a procurement and supply chain expert at the firm Catalent, said that Catalent, it's only a model. They may have been assuming, yes, there's a risk in the Middle East, but they may not have been assuming that this would kick off, Coffey said. Making supply chains more secure could raise costs for consumers. Of course, it's always passed on to the peeps. Meanwhile, Heidi Peltier, a senior researcher at Brown University's Costs of War project, said war also means long-term expenses around debt payments and veterans' health care. Of course, let's stick it to our veterans, too. Sure, Join the military. We'll take care of you afterwards. Wink. We have spent at least $1 trillion in interest on the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and rising because it's not like we've paid off any of that principal, Peltier said. Military spending, she said, also tends to create fewer jobs than government investment in education or health care. If we're spending money on this, why are we not spending money on, Peltier said. Exactly. And all of this is going to happen. Trump said that the tariffs were going to be good for America, and what does it do? It made the prices even higher. And of course, he said, "Oh, well, we got to attack Iran because they're going to attack Israel, and if it, they're going to, they'll respond, and then they'll come and make poo-poo on us." And how anybody voted for that some bitch, I don't understand. I mean, it wasn't like your choices were that great in the first place, but it's still, you got to call out the ones that are in office that are actually controlling this shit. Iran is not playing when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, and it shows here as attacks on oil tankers off Iraq kills one. An attack on 2 oil tankers off Iraq killed at least 1 crew member and Indian national as Iran pressed a campaign to disrupt global energy markets in retaliation for U.S. and Israeli strikes. They're just defending themselves. They have a right to defend themselves, don't they? They didn't start this. Iran said it was behind one of the attacks, but made no comment on the other. Oil-rich Iraq has long been a proxy battleground between the U.S. and Iran and saw itself dragged straight into the Middle East war after Israel and the U.S. attacked Iran on February 28th. Within hours, warplanes and missiles from every direction filled its airspace, and on Thursday, an attack on 2 oil tankers killed at least 1 crew member, an Indian national. Farhan al-Fartusi from Iraq's General Company of Reports told AFP that all crew members of the 2 tankers were rescued, adding that the 51 workers were in good condition. This contrasting to America, who just bombs boats in the Caribbean, just assuming they're drug boats. The attack killed at least 1 crew member. India's embassy in Iraq said on Thursday an Indian national had died in the attack, with 15 other Indian crew members evacuated. The attack occurred roughly 30 miles from Iraq's coast. Iraq's state organization for the marketing of oil, SOMO, said that 2 tankers, the Maltese-flagged Zephyros and the Marshall Islands flagged Safesia, I'm so stupid. Safe Sea Vishnu? Safesia. I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. We're sailing. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said Thursday they had struck the Marshall Islands flagged ship Safe Sea, which they claimed was U.S. owned, in the north of the Gulf after ignoring and not complying with warnings and alerts. The Strait of Hormuz, a waterway carrying 1/5 of the world's oil, remains closed, and Iran has vowed that not 1 liter of oil would be exported from the Gulf while the war continues. Iraq's crude production and exports have plunged since the Hormuz disruption, and the oil ministry has said the safety of navigation in international maritime corridors and energy supply routes must remain free from regional conflicts. Well, you got to talk to Iran about that. They're the ones controlling that shit. Iraq is a founding member of the OPEC cartel, and crude oil sales make up 90% of the country's budget revenues. The tanker's attack came just hours after the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad warned that Iran and Tehran-backed Iraqi armed groups might target U.S.-owned oil facilities in Iraq. After decades of conflicts, Iraq remains volatile, with increasingly influential armed groups operating outside the state's control. That would be the Iraqi resistance. When war broke out, Iran-backed armed groups in Iraq were the first targets of strikes, blamed on the U.S. and Israel. On Thursday, 2 senior Iraqi security officials told AFP that at least 9 fighters belonging to the U.S. blacklisted Harakat Ansar Allah al-Afia were killed in airstrikes on their base near the Iraqi-Syrian border. The security sources did not identify who was behind the attack, but the Iran-backed group blamed Israel and the U.S. I know that Trump and Hegseth, I think they said something like, "Yeah, we took out like 10 to 15 of those mine boats." And it's like they got like hundreds of those things. Trump's in real trouble. The Republicans definitely are in trouble in November, and I have no love lost for the Democrats, as you know, but this is a golden opportunity for them to actually do something, because it's pretty much guaranteed, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, as they used to say, that they're going to take over the House and the Senate. But the bad news is the Senate will be led by Chuck Schumer, and the House will be led by Hakeem Jeffries, two of the biggest Zionist ball suckers on the planet. Staying in Iraq, dozens of PMU fighters massacred by airstrikes in western Iraq. A series of devastating airstrikes targeting the positions of Iraq's Popular Mobilization Units, that's PMU, in western Anbar Governorate early yesterday, killing 35 fighters and injuring 90 more, according to Iraqi news. Unidentified aircraft bombed 3 sites belonging to the PMU's 19th Brigade, also known as Ansar Allah al-Wafiya, at its base in the Akashat area of Al-Qaim district near the Syrian border. Boom! Nailed those names. Pow, 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 pow. Sorry. I'm not a proud person, but sometimes I am when I get through a lot of names like that. Ansar Allah al-Wafiya issued a statement following the attack, accusing the U.S. and Israel of carrying out attacks to destabilize the border region between Iraq and Syria. Syria, the wild card. The strikes hit the brigade's medical unit, the 2nd Regiment headquarters, and a logistical support facility. Of course, they hit the medical. After the initial strikes, the aircraft continued to circle the area, launching additional attacks targeting ambulance teams and rescue workers as they attempted to evacuate the wounded from the flattened buildings, also known as the double tap, right? You get them the first time, wait for people to come in and help, then boom, you hit them again. Simultaneously, a separate airstrike hit a PMU Special Division headquarters near the international airport in oil-rich Kirkuk in central Iraq. At least 4 PMU members were killed and 6 others were wounded in that strike. Iraq's National Security Advisor Qasim al-Araji condemned the attack on PMU positions in Al-Qaim, calling it a violation of sovereignty. In a message posted on the social media platform The Tweeters, Araji described the incident as a cowardly terrorist attack carried out against the PMU in Al-Qaim. Where are we at here? Okay. Asaib al-Haq, that's 2 alls in a row, that's not right. A Shia armed faction affiliated with the PMU issued a statement saying the Al-Qaim site functions as an official military installation tasked with border protection. The group labeled the attack a dangerous violation of Iraqi sovereignty and an insult to the blood of Iraqis. This targeting comes in the context of clear and suspicious attempts by some parties to create pretexts and misleading reports in order to pressure for the evacuation of some sensitive areas and impose a new reality in them, the group added. Later yesterday, 2 drones struck the Iraqi Army's 14th Division Engineering Battalion in the majority Kurdish town of Makhmur, located south of Erbil, in northern Iraq. 3 Iraqi soldiers were reportedly injured. According to Kurdistan Watch, Makhmur has long been a key area for joint operations for the Iraqi army with the U.S.-led coalition. Until recently, U.S. advisors were stationed there. The U.S.-Israeli attack on Iraq's western border area at Al-Qaim comes amid reports that extremist militants linked to the extremist-led Syrian army are gathering on the Syrian side in preparation for possible military operation. The Rojava network reported on Thursday that, according to local sources, Syrian government forces alongside Arab formations and tribal forces have gathered at several strategic points, most notably the Al-Hal and Al-Shaddadi areas in the Hasaka countryside. So yeah, it has definitely gone regional for sure. And much like Lebanon, you have the two factions in those areas. You have the government forces, and you also have the rebel forces. So this, this is becoming even more of a hot mess than I think anybody anticipated in the West. Again, they probably thought it was just going to be a clean hit, that Iran would fold like a cheap suit and this would all be over, but the opposite has happened. Speaking of Iraq, U.S. Appeals Court upholds verdict against contractor liable for Abu Ghraib torture. A federal appellate court yesterday upheld a historic verdict against CACI Premier Technology, a military contractor found liable for its role in the torture of 3 prisoners at Abu Ghraib during the George W. Bush administration's invasion of Iraq in the early 2000s. You may remember those, with service members posing with people in piles, and, you know, the girl going, hey, you remember that? And then the dude that's like hanging up, and he's got like electrodes, like he's hooked up to a battery or something. He's got like a hood on. Disgusting. The 3 plaintiffs, middle school principal Suhail al-Shimari, fruit vendor Asad Zubai, and journalist Salah al-Ejaili. Damn, I got lucky on those last ones, not these. Are represented by the Center for Constitutional Rights and 2 law firms, CCR, not Creedence Clearwater Revival. Don't get it twisted. CCR noted Thursday that al-Shamiri versus CACI was first filed in 2008 under the Alien Tort Statute and is the only lawsuit brought by Abu Ghraib torture victims to make it to trial. These 3 survivors of Abu Ghraib, where U.S. captors subjected prisoners to broken bones, death threats, electric shocks, extreme temperatures, sexual abuse, and more torture, finally got their day in court in April 2024. The following November, a federal jury in Virginia ordered CACI to pay each plaintiff $3 million in compensatory damages and $11 million in punitive damages for a total amount of $42 million. This victory isn't only for the 3 plaintiffs in this case against a corporation. Ejaili said after the verdict, this victory is a shining light for everyone who has been oppressed and a strong warning to any company or contractor practicing different forms of torture and abuse. Yeah, the money's nice, but again, this is just another slap on the wrist. They just write a check and then they're probably going to end up doing it again. CACI unsuccessfully fought a new trial at the U.S. District Court for the District of Virginia, then turned to the Fourth Circuit, which heard arguments last September. We affirm the jury's verdict in full, wrote Senior Judge Henry Floyd, joined by Judge Stephanie Thacker, both appointees of former President Barack Obama. Judge A. Marvin Quattlebaum Jr., well, there's 2 of them, who was appointed by Trump, dissented. CCR legal director Bayer Azmi, who argued the appeal, said Thursday that we are gratified yet again that the Fourth Circuit rejected CACI's cynical arguments for impunity for its responsibility for the torture of our clients. Hello, Pamela Urban. Donald Trump is a child rapist and must resign immediately. He is a child rapist. We know that. Whether he resigns, if he resigns, it's not going to be because of that. I doubt he's going to resign. To be honest with you, not that I'm hoping that he doesn't, but you know, we got to keep it real. But you know, you never know with this war going on what could happen. Last year. Our courageous clients have waited so long for recognition and justice, and we are happy for them that this judgment affirmed their entitlement to it. Welcome, Pamela. Hope you're doing well today. Joining the center in this fight were the firms Akil and Valentine and Petersen, Belknap, Webb, and Tyler. Michael Buchanan, a partner at the latter and lead co-counsel for the plaintiffs, also expressed gratitude for the court's careful review of this matter and for its decision to uphold a verdict that acknowledges the severe harm our clients endured at Abu Ghraib at the hands of CACI employees and military personnel. I think that the chick that did the finger thing, I think she was the scapegoat. I think they got her. They convicted her, but nobody, not really anybody else. I've been honored to work on this appeal alongside an exceptionally skilled and dedicated team at Petersen Belknap, which includes Andrew Haddad, Alex Mahler, Haig, and other lawyers and paralegals, and with our colleagues at the Center for Constitutional Rights, Buchanan said. While no verdict can undo what these individuals suffered, this outcome affirms their courage and the fundamental principle that all must be held accountable for their actions. El Ejaili also celebrated the development, declaring that this is a huge moment, a win that builds a foundation for a new precedent in the U.S. This will cause a positive difference in the future. Maybe. You would hope. Those who believe they are above the law will now think twice before violating human rights, the plaintiff added. Yeah, I don't know about that, because there's still a lot of human rights violations going on as we speak. Thank you to the U.S. legal system, and thank you to everyone who had anything to do with this win. The appellate court's decision notably comes as the Trump administration and Israel have launched another war in the Middle East, a joint assault of Iran alongside Israeli bombing of Lebanon. Evidence of war crimes, including attacks on schools, hospitals, and other civilian infrastructure, has quickly mounted, fueling global demands for a diplomatic resolution. But again, to iterate, Iran has already said, we're not going to do a ceasefire. You've already fucked us over on so many ceasefires, and we've seen what you do during ceasefires. And you were planning this attack during the negotiations. So how far Iran will go, that remains to be seen. Meanwhile, oil climbs above $100 a barrel despite historic reserve release. What? No, say it isn't so. Oil prices climbed above $101 a barrel yesterday, despite the International Energy Agency, that's the IEA, announcing a unanimous agreement among its 32 member countries to release 400 million barrels of oil from their emergency reserves, Al Jazeera reported. I was watching something yesterday, and they were talking about how 8 million barrels of oil are used a day, or something to that effect. So basically, this would last like 50 days. Futures of Brent crude, the international benchmark, jumped nearly 20% as the news failed to ease concerns over prolonged disruptions to shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Brent was trading near $101 a barrel as of 2 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, up more than 38% from levels seen before the start of the war. Member countries of the IEA agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil from their strategic reserves, the largest coordinated release in history, to calm energy markets shaken by the war in the Middle East. In the Middle East, the head of the energy watchdog announced Wednesday. Also, now it's back down. Yeah, well, it's going to keep fluctuating. It's going to keep fluctuating. It'll go up. It'll go down. As long as the Strait of Hormuz is closed. This is one of those temporary things, like the what was it? The energy secretary said that a ship, a tanker, was successfully escorted through the Strait of Hormuz, and then he quickly took down that tweet. But even while it was up, it kind of brought the prices down. So this little bit of stuff might help. But it's going to just keep doing this. They're going to come out with these announcements, these pitiful announcements that's going to make it dip down, but then reality comes, back to life, back to reality, and then the price is going to go back the fuck up. Meanwhile, Trump considers loosening U.S. shipping rules to combat fuel price spike. So they're doing everything they can to try and save themselves in November. Yeah, and then people are shorting oil too when they make these announcements too, because they know it's going to dip down a little bit. Those shorts. The Trump administration is considering waiving the century-old Jones Act for a limited period to ensure energy and agricultural shipments can move freely between U.S. ports. That's according to Barbie doll and press secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday in a bid to combat Iran-related supply disruptions. In the interest of national defense, the White House... Wait a minute. Oh, she's saying this here. In the interest of national defense, the White House is considering waiving the Jones Act for a limited period of time to ensure vital energy products and agricultural necessities are flowing freely to the U.S. ports. Yay! Leavitt squeaked in a statement. Is it the Tom Jones Act? It's not unusual to have fun with anyone. Sorry. This action has not been finalized, she added. She added. Under the Jones Act, goods shipped between U.S. ports must be carried on vessels that are U.S. built, U.S. flagged, and mostly U.S. owned. The requirement sharply limits the number of tankers available for domestic shipments, but is strongly supported by maritime labor unions. The Jim Jones Act, yeah, it is. Kool-Aid's way down, y'all, or Flavor Aid. They use Flavor Aid. Come buy some Flavor Aid, y'all. The announcement of a 30-day waiver could come as early as sometime, maybe today, two sources familiar with the effort told Reuters, and would be aimed at combating spiking fuel prices and other disruptions since the start of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. High gas prices carry significant political risks for Trumpy and fellow Republicans, of course, who have long argued that their energy policies would keep fuel affordable for American consumers. Just like the tariffs were going to make things affordable for American consumers, and, well, we know how that worked out. You have to show chest hair to sing Tom Jones. I got a little soul patch right here. I got a little love patch. You get a little... Maybe I should start wearing V-neck shirts so I can show it off. It's a nice little island in a sexy sea. Yeah. And common decency won't either, if we're being totally honest here. A sustained rise in pump prices could undermine that message and fuel criticism. I see what you did there. From Democrats that the administration has failed to shield households from higher costs, particularly as voters remain sensitive to inflation ahead of the November midterm elections. U.S. national average, we already told you about this earlier, $3.60 a gallon is the national average. Diesel hitting $4.89. The highest since December 2022. Trump has been reviewing ideas to tame energy prices, but analysts and energy experts say he has few meaningful options as long as Iran continues to attack oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that is drowning Trump's chances of doing anything. Waiving the rule temporarily would allow foreign ships to carry fuel between U.S. ports, potentially lowering shipping costs and speeding deliveries. But 7 maritime labor unions slammed the idea of a waiver, saying that crude oil prices rather than shipping costs were the primary driver of gasoline prices. In a letter, they said a waiver would benefit foreign flag operators that avoid paying U.S. taxes, rely heavily on low-wage labor, and operate under regulatory regimes that circumvent international labor and vessel safety standards in direct conflict of America's national security and economic interests, the letter said. This is Patrick DeHaan again. Patrick DeHaan, an analyst with fuel price tracker Gas Buddy, said a waiver could help slow increases in import-reliant regions like the West Coast and Northeast, but the overall price trend would continue to be dictated by developments in the Middle East. And as we learned during the Iraq War, Afghanistan, all that, even when oil came down, gas prices still stayed high for a long time because of greed. On a daily basis, the waiver might slow price increases by around $0.05 a gallon, he said. The largest U.S. farm lobby, the American Farm Bureau Federation, asked Trump in a March 9th letter to waive the Jones Act to improve domestic transportation capacity, warning of fertilizer price spikes for farmers caused by shipping disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz. Hang on just a second here. The U.S. has issued Jones Act waivers in the past, only sparingly, typically in response to major supply disruptions. The most recent waivers came after hurricanes such as Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Maria in 2017. At the time, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security temporarily allowed foreign flag vessels to transport fuel between U.S. ports to ease shortages and speed deliveries to affected regions. So yeah, they're trying their damnedest to get those oil prices down, because when the oil prices are up, that's bad for whoever's in charge, basically, politically. Although Trump is probably facing some heat from his own supporters in the MAGA unit, or in the MAGA movement, that a lot of I've heard a lot of them say that look, this is not what we wanted. You said there no wars. You said America first, and we all know that was bullshit. So there's some buyer's remorse for sure from the MAGA base, and it'll be interesting to see how much. They're not going to vote for Democrats in November, but a lot of them may stay home and not vote for these Republicans who are supporting Trump on this bullshit. So we told you about the IEA and the 400 million barrels. So Trump to dip into strategic oil reserves to offset the crisis as well. This man is desperate. U.S. Department of Energy announced on Wednesday that 172 million barrels of oil will be released from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR, starting next week as part of a coordinated effort by IEA member countries to stabilize markets disrupted by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. I guess you could say they're in dire straits. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. I didn't know this was going to be a musical episode today. This is kind of like Buffy, you know, they have that musical episode. Sorry. No chest hair. Earlier today, well, I guess this was yesterday. Earlier yesterday, 32 member nations of the IEA unanimously agreed to Trump's request to lower energy prices with a coordinated release of 400 million barrels of oil. We told you about that. And refined products from their respective reserves. U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright wrote in the official statement. He added, as part of this effort, Trump authorized the Department of Energy to release 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve beginning next week. You know when Trump heard about the Petroleum Reserve, he's probably thinking about a Diddy party, but anyway, this will take approximately 120 days to deliver based on planned discharge rates. So, what is that, 4 months? It'll take 4 months to deliver based on plan. Okay. The countries involved span the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, bringing together 32 major industrial economies in what the IEA describes as the largest coordinated release of energy oil reserves in its history. Wright said the coordinated action aims to cushion global oil supply after U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran and Tehran's retaliatory strikes disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point that handles a large share of global crude shipments. So the release of oil reserves will unfold roughly over 4 months, according to the Department of Energy, based on how quickly oil can be pumped from the reserve's underground storage sites. Wright claimed that Trump's plan to refill the reserves after the release, saying the U.S. has arranged to more than replace these strategic reserves with approximately 200 million barrels within the next year, 20% more barrels than will be drawn down, and at no cost to the taxpayer. No cost to the taxpayer. Don't fall for that bullshit. Government data shows the SPR currently holds about 415 million barrels of crude, well below its 714 million barrel capacity after the reserve was significantly drawn down in recent years. During Biden's presidency, the U.S. released more than 200 million barrels from the SPR following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, leaving the stockpile at its lowest level since the early 80s, according to a report by Politico. Rest assured, America's energy security is as strong as ever, he said. That reminds me of one of the Naked Gun movies, where Frank Drebin said, "Don't worry, everybody, everything is fine, nothing to see here, everything's good." And behind him, there's like all these explosions and stuff happening. It's like, or the meme with the dog sitting in the burning house, going, "This is fine." According to the Wall Street Journal, the release would exceed the 182 million barrels released by IEA countries in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, making it the largest coordinated reserve release on record. Analysts warned the measure may only offer limited relief, with Swiss quote analyst IPEC, that name, I'm not saying that, Oskardeskaya, saying 400 million barrels is only a temporary fix, noting that IEA countries consume roughly 45 million barrels of oil per day. So I was way off with the 8 million. 45 million barrels per day. So that's not even like 10 days that's going to happen. They are desperate. Yeah, Kevin Bacon and Animal House, all is well. These are some interesting times we're living in. Interesting doesn't always mean good, but they're definitely interesting. Speaking of interesting, remember, like, we was talking about Russia and Ukraine, and then they were doing all this boycotting and putting sanctions on Russia and stuff, and helping Ukraine and stuff. Well, U.S. eases Russian oil sanctions. Who? What? Wait a minute. The U.S. has eased sanctions to allow countries to purchase Russian oil and petroleum products already loaded on vessels at sea, according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The move comes as escalating Middle East tensions triggered by the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran have sent global oil prices soaring. The U.S. and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran on February 28th, prompting Iranian retaliatory attacks across the region. The crisis has led to the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. We told you about that over and over, as Iran effectively blocks transit for ships, sending oil prices surging nearly 50% to almost $120 per barrel, although today, was it down to 96, you said, Chuck? But that number is going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. It's like it goes down when you hear the bullshit, and then you realize it's bullshit, and then it goes back up. That's kind of the pattern that happens there. Excuse me. Damn, I had a really good burp about to do, and then it got stage fright. To increase the global reach of existing supply, U.S. Treasury is providing a temporary authorization to permit countries to purchase Russian oil currently stranded at sea. Bessent said yesterday in a post on the Twitter, stating that the move would stabilize energy markets and curb oil prices temporarily, maybe get Europe off their back for a moment. The waiver relates to exports of Russian oil loaded onto vessels prior to March 12th and is set to last 30 days. Earlier in the day, U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright had stated that broader restrictions on Russian oil would not be lifted, stressing that Washington was not planning to change its sanction policy toward Moscow. But that was earlier in the day. 2 hours later. All right. We'll take them off, I promise. Commenting on the easing of restrictions, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the move is aimed at stabilizing the global energy market, adding that in this respect, the interests of Moscow and Washington align. Yikes. Talk about strange bedfellows. Last week, Bessent claimed the U.S. had given India permission to buy Russian crude to ease the temporary gap of oil around the world, having announced plans to unsanction other Russian oil to further boost supply. And of course, Russia is charging a premium on this oil. India, which alongside China emerged as a key buyer of Russian crude after sanctions were imposed following the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022, has never confirmed it would adhere to the restrictions, although the U.S. has claimed otherwise. Moscow likewise said it had no information suggesting that India has put Russian crude imports on hold. The Kremlin has condemned the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran as a premeditated and unprovoked act of aggression with no justification. So that's the thing. See, you can't go into, like, we can't just say, let's bomb Iran and we'll take them out and then everything's golden. No, there are ramifications upon ramifications upon ramifications. And it's like, it's almost like a butterfly effect, right? You start this and then something else happens and then something else happens. Yeah. So I find that to be, and they had such a hard line on Russia too. That's what I find satisfying, is the fact that they had to eat crow. Trump already called Putin before, like a few days ago or something. It was probably like, I want to save face here, but at the same time, I don't want to get impeached again. So maybe we could do this. So meanwhile, back here at home, Democrats will block bill to reopen the Homeland Security amid 27-day shutdown. Now, remember, this is the Department of Homeland Security, not ICE. ICE is already fully funded, like $80-something billion, probably more than that. Senate Democrats yesterday defeated a motion to proceed to a House-passed bill to reopen the Department of Homeland Security and end the 27-day shutdown that has hampered the functions of the Transportation Security Administration, that's the TSA, and other critical agencies. They should just go ahead and shut down the Department of Homeland Security. It's just more bureaucracy. The motion failed by a vote of 51 to 46. Centrist Senator John Fetterman Lurch out of PA was the only Democrat to vote with Republicans to advance the funding bill. It needed 60 votes to advance. Fetterman. I know. He sold the state of Pennsylvania a real bill of goods there. If they were looking for somebody, a lefty, or even a centrist, that guy's a fucking Republican. It marked the fourth time since February 12th that Democrats have voted to block Homeland Security funding legislation. The vote capped a day of skirmishes on the Senate floor between Democrats and Republicans on how to break the funding deadlock. Democrats voted against the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill because it includes funding for ICE and Customs and Border Protection. But as we said, ICE is already funded. And that's the thing, too. This is just like one of these virtue signaling things that the Democrats are trying to see. Look, we're doing something about ICE. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not doing anything about ICE. You're not doing anything about ICE. Two agencies they say need reforms after immigration agents murdered 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. This says shot and killed. I say murdered. Yeah, he's not a centrist either. We all know that we do not have agreement on how to deal with ICE. We know very simply that Democrats just want ICE to behave like any police department in America. Oh, God, no. If anything, they are acting like police departments in America. And use warrants and not wear masks. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer burped out after eating a baby sandwich. Senate Majority Leader John Thune accused Democrats of stonewalling White House negotiations over their latest effort to make some reforms to immigration enforcement to reopen the Department of Homeland Security. I don't know what Thune sounds like, so I'll just say this regularly. There have been many offers made repeatedly, the most recent of which was 13 days ago. He proposed during an impromptu floor discussion with Schumer that the Senate pass a short-term funding resolution to reopen all of Homeland Security's operations. I would support a resolution which will be offered to fund not just the TSA, but Coast Guard, cybersecurity, CISA, FEMA, and other agencies and departments of our government that are essential not only to national security and homeland security, but to make sure people can move through our airports, that the Federal Emergency Management Agency has the ability to respond to disasters, Thune said on the floor, even though FEMA was hurting with, what's her name, Kristi Noem running DHS. Schumer countered with a proposal to fund just TSA to ease congestion at airports. Yeah, they could totally itemize this instead of like paying for the whole fucking thing, which they don't need. They don't need the Department of Homeland Security. These agencies, as flawed as they are, were doing just as well by themselves without being under the umbrella of the fascist bullshit. When Thune dismissed the offer, Schumer responded, "I rest my case. What the GOP leader is saying is he will only fund TSA if we will continue to fund for a short time, for a long time, ICE and Border Patrol, which he knows is gridlocked." But then, maybe, Border Patrol maybe, but ICE is not. ICE is fully funded. Just remember that, ICE is fully funded. Senator Jackie Rosen, Democrat out of Nevada, took to the Senate floor at lunchtime to offer a proposal to pass a bill to fund TSA by unanimous consent, but Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno objected. He's a Republican. Moreno argued that Rosen's proposal would leave federal workers at other critical agencies without funding. How about the Border Patrol guys and gals? How about Customs? How about CISA? How about FEMA? How about the Coast Guard? Are we saying we're going to penalize all of them? He said penalize. Why would we do that? Moreno said. Well, you could do individual things with those departments too, jackass. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat out of Connecticut, rose on the floor to propose that the Senate pass by unanimous consent a bill to reopen and fund the Coast Guard. On the average day, the Coast Guard saves 12 lives, interdicts 1,250 pounds of cocaine, which we keep for ourselves for the parties, screens 3,000 vessels, he said. This motion I will make will allow the Coast Guard to be paid for the rest of the year. Senator Eric Schmidt, Republican out of Missouri, then took to the floor to rebut Murphy's arguments, asserting that Democrats have repeatedly blocked Coast Guard funding by holding up funding for the entire Homeland Security Department since mid-February. Here we go again with political gamesmanship and grandstanding for some clip to show that you want to fund the Coast Guard. Meanwhile, you voted against the Coast Guard, he said. The Democrats do not want to fund the Coast Guard because they're hell-bent on defunding ICE. California Senators Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff later offered a unanimous consent request to fund the Federal Emergency Management Agency, but that was also met with Republican objection. So, Senator, hey, you guys. Yeah, so they could just break it up. This is a good way to get rid of the Department of Homeland Security. Just get rid of it and then fund these things separately like you used to do. That's the thing. The Republicans are holding all these other agencies hostage just so DHS can get its funding. And, and some of these, to their credit, some of these Democrats are trying to do line item type of funding for these other, for like FEMA, the Coast Guard, that sort of thing. But, there's still people who say that the DHS should be funded in full in the Democratic Party. And to them, I say, go fuck yourselves. Finally, we head down south of the equator, or maybe not. I don't want to pull an AOC and geologically or geographically say some places where it's not. Ecuador begins U.S.-backed law enforcement operations, orders curfew. What time is it? Jesus. We've been going a long time, folks. Ecuador says it will begin new law enforcement operations against criminal activity in 3 regions with U.S. support. Ecuador is a member of a U.S.-led anti-cartel coalition in Latin America. Ecuadorian Interior Minister John Reinberg, explained that the U.S. was providing logistical support for the criminal crackdown He requested that people in 3 provinces comply with a nightly curfew from March 15th to the 30th, which is starts Sunday, I believe. We do not want collateral victims from the attacks we are about to launch, Feinberg said. We have significant support from U.S. forces for the operations we're about to carry out. Last week, Trump announced the new military organization along with Latin American leaders at his Doral resort in Florida, dubbed Shield of the Americas. That's what Kristi Noem is going to be a part of now. Now that she's not DHS secretary, she's going to be part of the Shield of Americas thing. Sounds like some sort of tampon commercial. Ecuador is one of a dozen Latin American countries to join the bloc. Earlier this month, the U.S. conducted joint operations with Ecuador. Department of War spokesman Sean Parnell said that U.S. soldiers worked with the Ecuadorian military to take down a drug smuggling facility. It's unclear if there were casualties. I'm pretty sure there were. Under Trumpy, the U.S. has ramped up military activity in Latin America. The Department of War has conducted strikes of dozens of alleged drug vessels in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, killing over 150 people. The U.S. also attacked Venezuela and kidnapped President Nicolas Maduro. So, the global south here in the Western Hemisphere, getting ravaged by the United States. You have what's her name in Venezuela now, the vice president, who's basically just being a cuck to the United States. She talks tough, but not really. So, we'll keep an eye on that. So you may have noticed that not a lot of video is coming out of like Israel and other parts of the Mideast, right? I think that Israel said that anybody showing what's going on there would receive an automatic like 5-year sentence, that kind of thing. Well, it's also happening in the United Arab Emirates too. As a tourist is facing a prison sentence there for what? Filming Iranian missiles. What?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media publishing things they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
British tourist faces prison sentence in UAE for filming Iranian missiles. A British tourist is among about 20 people who are facing charges in the UAE for filming Iranian attacks on Dubai as the U.S. Gulf Arab allies are taking steps to censor the impact of the war. We can't be showing you the truth, bitches. What's wrong with you? According to The Guardian, the 60-year-old man is being charged with a law that prohibits sharing material that can endanger public security. Take a sip. It's not national security, but it's public security. The old drinking game. The report said that he is still facing charges despite deleting the video immediately when he was asked to. The charge carries a penalty of up to 2 years in prison, and many could face similar charges for simply sharing videos of missile attacks that have already been published online. Can't be doing that. This is in Dubai, I think, somewhere. Look at all that shit. The charges sound extremely vague, but serious on paper. In reality, the alleged conduct could be something as simple as sharing or commenting on a video that is already circulating online, said Rada Sterling, the head of detained in Dubai. Under UAE cybercrime laws, the person who originally posts content can be charged, but so can anyone who reshapes, reposts, or comments on it. Strilling? Oh, I'm sorry, Strilling. It's Starling. I think they misspelled it. In the immediate aftermath of the U.S. and Israel war, launching the war with Iran on February 28, videos of counterattacks in Gulf countries were widespread on social media, but became scarce once the Arab governments began cracking down. Can't be letting the truth out. What's wrong with you? In Bahrain, which has a Shia majority ruled by a Sunni monarch, authorities began arresting people for, quote, misusing social media and pursued people who appeared to be celebrating the attacks. Were they dancing Israelis, I wonder? Israel has also imposed tight restrictions on the dissemination of information about Iranian missiles that we told you, as it did during the 12-day war in June last year. We must have a lot of politicians in town. Let's think of the current wind in Chicago. Yeah, well, it's the Windy City. It should be windy, right? What's up, P Stuff? Good to see you. Good morning to you. Meanwhile, the UK says U.S. troops injured by drone attack on base in Iraq as Pentagon stays quiet on U.S. casualties. Remember they said like 7 people died, but it's a lot more than that. British officials yesterday said that U.S. troops were injured in a drone attack on a base in Erbil, Iraqi Kurdistan on Wednesday night, as the Pentagon has not been sharing information about all of the U.S. casualties in the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. According to the Telegraph, a base housing U.S. and British troops was targeted by a swarm of drones, and 2 were shot down by British air defense forces, but others got through and struck the facility. The report said the drones that hit the base in Erbil were likely launched from Tehran, though Iran-aligned Shia militias also claimed a series of drone attacks against U.S. assets in Iraq on Wednesday. Erbil and Baghdad were both struck a number of times last night with increasing coordination. We have personnel in Erbil who are currently helping with the defense of that base, said Brigadier General, I guess that's Brigadier General Guy Foden. Guy. What's up, Guy? Hi, Guy. An officer at the UK's Permanent Joint Headquarters, PJHQ, from where British overseas operations are overseen. So I don't know. That may be something else since it's British. Last night, they shot down 2 UAVs, that's unmanned aerial vehicles, coming at the camp, but a number of UAVs did impact on the camp, Foden added. He said that several U.S. troops were injured, while another British officer, Lieutenant General Nick Perry, downplayed the U.S. casualties, saying the injuries were nothing too serious. Tell that to the injured. Earlier this week, the Pentagon acknowledged that at least 140 U.S. troops have been injured since the U.S. and Israel launched the war, but the admission came after Reuters reported that as many as 150 U.S. service members had been wounded. Before that, the Pentagon just acknowledged 8 severe injuries and confirmed 8 deaths, including 7 U.S. troops killed by Iranian attacks and 1 who died of an unspecified medical emergency. The medical emergency. On Wednesday, CBS News reported that a March 1st Iranian drone attack on a U.S. operations center in Kuwait that killed 6 U.S. troops was much worse than the Pentagon disclosed. As of Tuesday night, more than 30 U.S. troops wounded in the attack were still in the hospital. Yeah, so all this propaganda. We can't show you the bombs in UAE or Israel or all the destruction that's happening. We can't tell you how many are wounded and dead because morale and growing hostility at home, as it is. If they actually knew the real numbers, would people shut it down? Would there actually be like some sort of general strike? Probably not. But there'd be a lot more people pissed off. So we told you about the school in Iran that the U.S. said they didn't bomb. Well, guess what? U.S. responsible for the Manab school massacre investigation proves. Now you say, oh, well, this is an Iranian investigation, right? So, Iran's going to lie about this, but a U.S. military investigation, so their own people, claims targeting error. I saw something on Twitter the other day. David Axelrod, Obama's was his campaign manager or something. Says, I don't believe the United States would purposefully target a school, but I have to object to all that. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Of course they would. They don't give a fuck. You and your bald head and that bullshit mustache. The U.S. was responsible for a deadly Tomahawk missile strike on an Iranian elementary school, which resulted in the martyrdom of at least 165 school girls. I think it's 170. Age 7 to 12, a U.S. military investigation has determined, according to U.S. officials and individuals familiar with the preliminary findings. The strike carried out on the Shahjareh Tayyibeh elementary school on February 28th was allegedly a, quote, targeting mistake conducted by the U.S. military, which had been conducting attacks on adjacent Iranian military base, unquote, according to the New York Times. According to people briefed on the inquiry, officers at U.S. CENTCOM created the strike coordinates using outdated intelligence data supplied by the Defense Intelligence Agency. Isn't that Tulsi's agency? Tulsi Gabbard, doesn't she head up the DIA? Officials stressed that the investigation remains ongoing and that key questions remain unanswered, particularly regarding why the outdated data was not verified before the strike. One quote was, well, fuck them, that's why, and that's probably what happened. The attack on the school located in the town of Manab in southern Iran has been described as one of the most devastating in recent decades. Iranian officials have mourned 165 people killed in the strike, most of whom were children. Although it's there was more, there was teachers and stuff killed too. It's like 100 and some, close to 200, I think, in total. Although the overall conclusion was widely anticipated, as the U.S. is the only country involved in the aggression that deploys Tomahawk missiles, they were saying Iran bombed their own school with Tomahawk missiles. That's one of the bullshit lies they were trying to push. The findings have cast a shadow over Washington's aggression on Iran. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had previously disclosed that available evidence proves that it was indeed the U.S. behind the attack. I think they found missile remnants, and one of them said "made in the USA." Come on. The preliminary inquiry suggests the alleged mistake occurred after the DIA labeled the school building as a military target in the targeting data provided to Central Command. And this was probably thrown into the mix with the AI stuff too. That Palantir shit. The Palantir AI said, there's a school? Investigators are still examining how the outdated data was transmitted and whether updated intelligence existed but was not incorporated. Military targeting procedures typically involve multiple intelligence agencies verifying information before a strike is authorized. In addition to CENTCOM and the DIA, investigators are reviewing the work of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which provides satellite imagery and geospatial intelligence used to assess potential targets. Satellite imagery reviewed by investigators shows that the building had been separated from the nearby base more than a decade earlier. Visual analysis indicates the school compound was fenced off from the military installation between 2013 and 2016. Like they said, a decade ago. Those poor kids, right? And now they're not even the only school that's being bombed. They're bombing schools, hospitals, all kinds of civilian areas. Over 20,000 sites in Iran. And Hegseth said, fuck decorum, fuck, war law, rules of war. We're going to do whatever we want. And yeah, if he don't get prosecuted, you might be seeing some real turmoil over here. Here's something fun. Israeli army drops charges against soldiers caught on video raping Palestinian detainee. Yeah. Shocking. I know that they did that because that's not in their nature. The Israeli military has dropped charges against 5 reservists who tortured and raped a Palestinian detainee at the Sidi Dearman detention center after military advocate Major General Itai Ofer ordered the case dismissed yesterday. According to and I butchered that name, but fuck him, I don't care. According to the Israeli army statement, and prosecutors dropped the indictment against the 5 soldiers because of, quote, exceptional circumstances, evidentiary complications, and procedural obstacles that made it difficult to continue the case. Basically saying we're assholes and we don't care. Military authorities said the detainee at the center of the prosecution is currently located in Gaza, arguing that his situation created additional legal difficulties for pursuing the charges. Bibi's office welcomed the decision, of course, calling the case the blood libel known as the City Teeman affair against the fighters of Force 100. And saying it had smeared Israel's reputation around the world in an unprecedented way. Smeared your reputation? Your reputation was already like 3 feet under mud. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz also supported the cancellation, saying that justice has been done. Wow. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir likewise praised the move, highlighting that those who need to be held accountable for this grave affair are those officials in the legal system who took part in this criminal conduct and damaged the good name of IDF soldiers. The good name of IDF soldiers. Yeah, this is from Max Blumenthal. Here's Mayor Shitrit. I'm not making that name up. It says Shitrit. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see. All right, fuck it. Who raped a Palestinian detainee on camera, being trotted out as a hero on Israeli national TV. So let's go. There we go. Sorry about that. The Public Committee Against Torture in Israel accused the military legal system of obscuring clear evidence of abuse, stating the condition in which the detainee arrived at the hospital after being attacked in the detention facility leaves no room for doubt as to the acts committed against him and the severity. The group added that security camera footage clearly indicates that these acts were inflicted on him by the guards who abused him with blood-curdling cruelty for a long time. Medical records cited in the original indictment reportedly documented broken ribs and a rectal tear sustained by the detainee while held at the prison. A rectal tear, yes, that means something was shoved up his ass. Back in January, Israeli rights group B'Tselem released a report titled Living Hell, documenting the systemic torture across Israeli prison facilities holding Palestinian detainees. Based on testimony from released prisoners, the report detailed widespread abuse carried out by prison guards, soldiers, and Shin Bet personnel, including rape, forced anal penetration with objects, beatings to the genitals, starvation, electric shocks, and denial of medical care. Former detainees described being burned with cigarettes and acid, deprived of water for days. After 3 days, if you don't have water, you're pretty much dead, and subjected to relentless beatings and extreme noise torture. B'Tselem said the prison system functions de facto as a torture camp where Palestinians, many held without trial under administrative detention or the Israeli designation of unlawful combatants, are routinely subjected to deliberate and sustained abuse. I mean, this sounds like something out of a movie, right? But this is much worse than a movie. This is way worse than a movie. Okay. Yeah, this is way worse than a movie because this is real life. This is the depravity of just evil people who are desperate to hold on to some sort of land that doesn't even belong to them. And who think they are better than anyone else, the chosen people. They think anyone else, like Christians and Muslims and any other faiths, are just dogs, that we should be serving them. Well, fuck these people. And I hope Iran blows them back to the Stone Age. The only thing I worry about in Israel, though, are the Palestinians, because the Israelis have bomb shelters, but they're not allowing the Palestinians into these bomb shelters, right? Because they want to erase them. They figure, okay, well, Iran will do the job for us. Iran's trying to do these surgical strikes on Israel, but I mean, it's war. They're going to kill Palestinians too. And so once again, Palestinians are going to be victims in this. And then you have these creatures that are, of course, their own it's like the police in the police, right? It's like, oh, we looked into it, we didn't do anything wrong. It's like, disgusting. Yeah. Absolute psychopathy. Yeah. Disgusting. All right. On a lighter note, if you could call it a lighter note, I guess it is compared to that. Senate GOP uses AI deepfake to attack Tallarico. Tallarico. That's a fun name to say. Tallarico. Mofos only allow about 5 pieces of select evidence in federal cases anyhow. Judges getting busted and all. In the latest example of Republicans using artificially generated deepfakes to attack their opponents, the Senate GOP's official social media account has posted an attack ad depicting a synthetic version of Texas Democrat James Tallarico, a state representative and U.S. Senate candidate. The video, posted on Wednesday to the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the NRSC page on the tweeters, portrays a frighteningly realistic approximation of Tallarico's appearance and voice. The state representative who won the Democratic nomination for Texas U.S. Senate seat in a primary earlier this month is depicted reading an array of old social media posts that the NRSC described as extreme statements praising transgenderism, twisting Christian beliefs, and advocating for open borders. I think this is it. Can we, okay, let me pause this real quick. We'll do this full screen. So it's about a minute 25.
And now a dramatic reading of James Tallarico's most memorable tweets.
Oh, I remember this one. Radicalized white men are the greatest domestic terrorist threat in our country.
White men.
So true. So true. Oh, I love this one too. The Texas Capitol can be a hostile environment for our trans neighbors. Our office is the first in the history of the Capitol to add pronouns to our official business cards. It's a small way to tell trans Texans, you are welcome here.
Pronouns.
Oh, this one is touching. Over and over, Christians use scripture to justify bullying trans kids. I told them in my faith, God is non-binary.
#TXLedge.
There, but for the grace of God, go I. As a white man, I'm susceptible to the same radicalization. Thankfully, I was exposed to diversity at a young age and explicitly taught the values of equality, inclusion, and justice. But not every young white boy is so lucky.
White boy.
Should have been a preacher. Oh, and best for last. This video brings back memories of being the only teenage boy at Planned Parenthood's March for Women's Lives in 2004.
And that concludes our dramatic reading of James Tallarico's most memorable tweets.
Yeah, that's some wild ass shit. Oops, sorry. Hang on a second. That's the thing, when you go to Twitter, it does all kinds of weird shit. So here we go. Okay, we're back on track. Back on track. I'm gonna get you back. I remember that song. Okay, here we go. The posts were all real. I mean, he did post those on Twitter, so they didn't make that up. Yikes. Didn't want to see that face. Tallarico did indeed state, following a spate of mass shootings against minorities in 2021, that, quote, radicalized white men are the greatest domestic terror threat in our country. I don't see the lie there. He also did say that his office had added personal pronouns to official business cards out of respect for transgender Texans, that he believed God was non-binary, and that he was the only teenage boy at Planned Parenthood's March for Women's Lives in 2004. However, all of the posts are at least several years, if not more than a decade old. The video also depicts its AI simulacrum, fancy words, of Tallarico smiling and reminiscing fondly about the post, which he never actually did. That's the part, that's the creepy part. The AI twisting of it. So true, he is depicted saying after reading the tweet about radicalized white men. I love this one too, he says, and you heard the thing. Aside from a small translucent watermark in the bottom right corner of the video labeling it AI generated, there is no indication that the video is a fabrication. While both sides of the aisle have dabbled in the use of AI to attack their opponents, Politico's Adam Wren has noted that deepfakes were not being deployed equally and have become central to the approach of the GOP in campaigns. Yikes, that face. In October, after Republicans made a similar video showing a simulated Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer celebrating the government shutdown, Wren noted the frequency with which such tactics were being used by Republican campaigns at both the state and federal level. Other examples of AI-generated advertising have also come from Republicans. An ad from Mike Braun, now governor of Indiana, last year used AI to fake scenes without disclosing it. Trump's account regularly posts clearly fake videos of the president ridiculing opponents. The NRSC released one hitting Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills as she launched her Senate campaign, and one simulating a Democratic group chat. Deepfakes have also been deployed heavily by social media accounts for Trump's White House to degrade opponents. Earlier this year, the official account posted a photo of an organizer who'd been arrested during a protest against U.S. immigration, against ICE, doctored to portray her uncontrollably crying when actual photos of the event show her appearing stone-faced and stoic while being led away in handcuffs. So I don't know if you can see it here. There's the lady. This is the photo of the lady, and then they got it here and you've seen those on like thumbnails and stuff on YouTube. You'll see like somebody that looks like they're crying and stuff, and it's like, no, they didn't do that. While more than half of all U.S. states have legislation regulating the use of AI deepfakes for election-related content, the consumer advocacy group Public Citizen has said such content needs to be addressed at the federal level. Yeah, good luck with that. The group has called on the Federal Elections Commission to designate the use of AI for deceptive political messaging as fraudulent misrepresentation, and on Congress to pass legislation banning the practice and requiring AI-generated content to be prominently labeled. They said that one, the Tallarico one, there was like a little bitty thing, like the disclaimers you get on the drug commercials, that they're like the little bitty print that said may cause death. Like, what the shit? I ain't taking this fucking pill. Fuck that. Robert Weissman, the co-president of Public Citizen, told Common Dreams that the deepfake of Tallarico is a disgrace and the NRSC should put it down immediately. Political deepfakes are a profound threat to our democracy because there is no realistic way for voters to understand they are seeing fake representations rather than real video, Weissman said. This deepfake has an AI-generated watermark, but it's all but invisible, sort of like an admission of wrongdoing, more than an effort at transparency. Right, exactly. And this was one of the things I was worried about, too, with AI and propaganda. Right, you're going to have these AI videos of false flag attacks and stuff, and people don't pay attention. They see something, they go, oh my, that can't, that's crazy. Who did that? Why'd they do that? And it's like, no, it's fake. Kind of like, I mean, they've been doing this for years in ads. Lying about the other opponent. They're lying about their opponent, saying so and so did, or making vague assumptions about them that in reality aren't true. And now you got AI in the mix. It's really disgusting, for sure. You caught a little sneak peek of this just a second ago because I wasn't ready. So leftist, let's go here. Leftist journalist Owen Jones vindicated in libel case over BBC's biased coverage of Gaza genocide. British journalist Owen Jones yesterday celebrated a UK High Court judge's ruling in his favor in a libel lawsuit that a BBC editor brought against him, and said that should the editor choose to move forward with his case, despite the decision, he was looking forward to defending my article in court. The High Court ruled that Jones was expressing an opinion when he wrote an article for Dropsite News in December 2024 titled "The BBC's Civil War Over Gaza," in which he spoke to BBC staffers about Middle East Online editor Rafi Berg's influence over the news outlet's coverage of Israel and Palestine. The court also said Jones had expressed his opinion and that of his sources based on concrete examples of Berg's editorial role and journalism. Jones's article described staffers' alleged allegations that internal complaints about how the BBC covers Gaza have been repeatedly brushed aside, as Berg sets the tone for the outlet's online coverage of Israel's onslaught in the enclave, where more than 75,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 2023. A lot more than that, actually. They're still finding bodies. In what's being called a genocide by top Holocaust scholars and human rights groups. It noted that the BBC failed to report on Amnesty International's finding that Israel was committing genocide in Gaza, and displayed an on-screen chyron reading, "Israel rejects fabricated claims of genocide," fabricated in quotes. Journalists expressed concerns over bias in the shaping of the Middle East Index of the BBC News website, wrote Jones. Several allege that Berg micromanages this section, ensuring that it fails to uphold impartiality. The BBC has long been criticized for centering Israel and dehumanizing Palestinians, as more than 1,000 artists said in a letter last year when they condemned the network for refusing to air a documentary about the impact of Israel's attacks on children in Gaza, on the grounds that it featured the child of the enclave's deputy minister of agriculture, suggesting, quote, that Palestinians holding administrative roles are inherently complicit in violence. Motherfuckers. The article also pointed to Berg's own history of pro-Israel coverage, including a 2002 story that, quote, presented young IDF soldiers as courageous defenders of their country while failing to mention the occupation and settlement of Palestinian land or the widespread allegations of crimes documented by human rights groups and the U.S. government. Berg also presented Israeli settlers in the West Bank as victims seeking a better quality of life, and did not mention the fact that the settlements have been repeatedly deemed illegal, and wrote about the Mossad in glowing terms in a book he wrote with extensive cooperation from the Israeli intelligence agency. He also posted a photo on social media showing Prime Minister Bibi with a copy of Berg's book on his bookshelf, Jones reported. Berg's lawyer said last year that Jones's reporting attacked Berg's professional reputation as a journalist and editor and led to death threats. Well, he's not a journalist, he's a stenographer, and he's a fucking propagandist. So, yeah, you slap that journalist term out of your mouth. In order for his case against Jones to proceed, Berg would now need to prove in court that Jones did not genuinely hold the opinion he expressed in his reporting, or demonstrate that the opinion is not one an honest person could hold on the basis of any fact that existed at the time of its publication. That's according to Middle East Eye. Of course, I am proud to stand by my propaganda. I'm proud to stand by my journalism, said Jones on Thursday. So good for this kid. You know, that's the thing. You're going to call out these people. They're going to say, you know, defamation or lying, you know, libel if you're printing it. And that you're going to see so much more litigation because of this stuff. Trump does this shit too. He sues people for telling the truth about him too. And a lot of times he ends up not winning. It really depends on the judge though, that's involved. Finally, for Propaganda Watch, we go back to James Lee. You may have heard about the Was it the Iranian drones off the West Coast? That laughable fucking propaganda. Oh my God. Where apparently, the was it ABC News reported like some, anyway, he's going to get into that and show it's all some debunked bullshit. So let's get to it. This is about 12 minutes. So, you know, if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. I might go take a pee break. What's up, Yona? Woohoo! Smoke more of the weeds. That's right. Now more than ever. So this is James Lee. Check him out. 5149 with James Lee on the YouTubes. He does some good reporting here. So let's watch.
I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast.
I'm going back to South Carolina, and I'm asking to send our sons and daughters over there to the Middle East, says a closeted gay dude with no children. Allegedly. Propaganda for the war with Iran is in full overdrive right now, and our mission today is to shred all of this Israeli-sponsored Hasbro. Yeah, I said it. Okay, this morning, ABC News had this exclusive report that the FBI was warning that Iran might attack California with a drone in retaliation for this war. Take a listen.
The FBI warning of possible Iranian drone attacks on our homeland. A new alert reviewed by ABC News revealing Iran's aspirations to conduct a surprise attack specifically against unspecified targets in California. The FBI saying it's warned police departments across the Golden State now of strikes by unmanned aerial vehicles or drones as tensions rise in the Middle East. Let's get straight to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Kontersky. Aaron, what are you learning?
We've reviewed an alert that came within the last couple of weeks, Kira, just recently from the FBI to law enforcement agencies up and down the California coastline, warning that Iran is aspiring now to perhaps launch some kind of a retaliatory attack on the U.S. mainland using drones on the West Coast.
Hang on a quick second here. You guys heard that, right? He said that this bulletin supposedly came from within the last week or two. But then in this graphic right here, it says September 2025 bulletin. That was 6 months ago. And now they're making it sound like it's some new thing that just came up. Now they're just bringing it up like it's breaking news. That's a little weird and a little sus. Yeah, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that they're making it sound like this is some crazy breaking news. America is about to be attacked. Definitely not trying to fearmonger or manufacture consent for a war that makes absolutely no sense. A war that the majority of Americans are against. Although I am very happy to report that the country, America, is finally waking up, with the majority of voters now believing that the reason why Trump took military action in Iran was to distract from the Epstein files. Looking at the data here, obviously a majority of Democrats think this, but even, you know, a not insignificant number of Republicans, 1 in 4, more than 1 in 4, believe that as well. So maybe the two-party spell is finally breaking. We'll see. But I gotta say, the reaction from the mainstream media is a bit of a meltdown here, because look, they're reaching back into the vault again. This is a CNN 3D rendered video to show us all of these hidden tunnels and caves where Iran is supposedly hiding all of their missiles and drones. But guess what? This narrative that Iran could somehow strike California is actually a complete media fabrication, and we have the proof. I'll give credit to the LA Times here, even though their headline says the exact same thing, that California could be attacked by Iranian drones, but they at the very least published the fine print deep into this article here. Quote, a source with knowledge of the memo, but not authorized to discuss it publicly, said that the warning was issued based on intelligence received by the United States Coast Guard. Law enforcement sources experienced in intelligence said that such alerts are cautionary in nature. The source is experienced in counterterrorism and said that, quote, it's not been deemed credible at this time. The sources also stressed that the warning was cautionary and that there was no indication that Iran was planning an attack or if it even could successfully launch one. So what this is nothing more than, oh yeah, we had this feeling that Iran would like to attack us, even though they don't have the weapons to even pull off this attack. But they want to, though. And what this does is it gives fodder to traitors like Lindsey Graham to call for boots on the ground in Iran. Take a listen here.
Needs to end. I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. What I want you to do in the Mideast, our friends in Saudi Arabia and other places, step forward and say, this is my fight too.
I'm going back to South Carolina and I'm asking to send our sons and daughters over there to the Middle East, says a closeted gay dude with no children. Allegedly. Speaking of which, we got to talk about this story because it is all related. The Alexander brothers, real estate brokers who have been convicted of sex trafficking. Quote, luxury real estate agents Tal and Orrin Alexander and their brother Alon were convicted Monday of sex trafficking for using their vast wealth to drug and rape numerous women they lured into their twisted orbit. Not ideal, in fact, absolutely horrendous. And guess what? These brothers were actually in the Epstein files, redacted, but you could see their first names here. Alon, Orrin, Tal, described in this FBI document, this FBI report, allegedly doing some despicable things to young women, underage women. Technically, this is not alleged anymore. In fact, they have been convicted. So again, I have to bring up Kash Patel and his ludicrous statement that he had no evidence of child sex trafficking in the files. What a clown. But ask yourselves, why would this Mickey Mouse Club of an operation, the FBI, want to redact the names of perpetrators from the files? A lot of reasons, obviously, to say the least. Reason number one.
Kash Patel, the American people want to know.
This is awesome.
How does it feel to be a cup for Israel? Answer the question.
Since the hearing. We're seeing and hearing what the FBI is doing on a daily basis.
You're claiming to serve the American people. You're serving Israel. Does it feel to be Israel's bitch? You don't care about kids getting raped. The American people want to know.
He's a patriot.
Patriot?
He's a patriot.
Rape kids? Is patriotism to
Thank you for your service, Direct.
Kids?
You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot?
Yeah.
Really?
I didn't say.
That last dude is hilarious. I didn't say anything. But, you know, you could probably guess where I'm going with this. Because I do find it very interesting that nowhere in this New York Post article does it mention where these three brothers are from. But you know where they're from. Twin brothers, Orrin Alexander and Alon Alexander, and their older brother, Tal Alexander, are Israeli American. Gee, I wonder why they didn't want to mention that. You know, I bet if these guys were Somali or Persian or whatever, they maybe would lead with that in the article headline. But Israeli, that's just an insignificant coincidental detail, not even worth mentioning. Probably also a coincidence that one of the brothers was actually Ivanka and her husband Jared Kushner's realtor, and they are, of course, Donald Trump's daughter and son-in-law. It says right here, Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner bought their $24 million Florida mansion in April of 2021 using high-end real estate agent Orrin Alexander, who was arrested earlier this month, along with two of his brothers, Tal and Alon, on sex trafficking charges. You know the saying, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Now, a little bit more noticing, we find that Alon, the third brother, worked at a private security firm, the, quote, family's private security firm. So let's find out more about this family and what exactly this security services firm does. All right, this is the Jerusalem Post. Shlomo and Orly Alexander founded Kent Security Services in Miami in 1982, not long after emigrating from Israel. And it says here, Kent Security Services provides comprehensive, tailored security solutions, including armed and unarmed security officers, concierge services, and 24/7 surveillance technology for commercial, residential, and government sectors. That last part is critical. 24/7 surveillance technology for commercial, residential, and government sectors. So this isn't just some kind of mom and pop security company, okay? It's an Israeli-founded securities firm that provides 24/7 surveillance technology for government sectors. Think about that. The family of convicted sex traffickers from Israel in the Epstein files, tied to the Kushners, has been handling surveillance for the United States government. What could go wrong? And to bring it full circle, let's talk about who told Trump in the first place that we had to go to war with Iran.
The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this, At the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us.
It was Jared Kushner and his crew who told Donald Trump that they thought Iran would attack us first, so we had to attack. Which, once again, is what they are fear-mongering about right now. You see now how this is just one big story, right? We have the Epstein files, which, even though much of it's still redacted, or in some cases not even released yet for a lot of those files, it has, at the very least, given us insight into this Israeli honeypot operation, alleged, and copious amounts of heinous crimes or evidence of heinous crimes perpetrated by the most powerful figures in the world, alleged. And those same people in those files are the ones behind the intelligence that Iran is an existential threat and must therefore be taken out. And how would you look at that? Nobody is talking about the Epstein files anymore. Not only that, Congress has just instituted an automatic involuntary draft registration. We're bringing back the draft. It says right here, under a provision in the fiscal year 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, the United States government is transitioning to a system of automatic registration for the Selective Service. Okay, we see right through this. The majority of the American people see through this ruse that we're fighting a war on behalf of Israel, on behalf of Epstein, on behalf of disgusting pedos, allegedly. So guess what their next move is? It's actually to call you a racist bigot, with the Washington Post coming out with an article that says, calling the U.S. war in Iran Operation Epstein Fury is anti-Semitic. My gut reaction is just to sort of course, laugh this whole thing off because it's so utterly insane, the narratives that they're trying to spin here. But this isn't just about silencing me. This isn't a censorship story. This is way bigger than that, right? I'm whatever. This, what we're talking about right now, is a full-scale war that we're engaged in where thousands of Iranians have already died. We got 9 American service members reported killed, hundreds injured. Trump warns that there's more deaths coming. But I think even more dire is this war at home and the fact that our country has seemingly been hijacked and occupied by foreign invaders, and they're trying to distract us against big, bad Iran, when in fact, we got traitors, politicians at home who care more about lining their own pockets than serving the American people. The real fight isn't against Iran, it is against evil. And evil manifests itself in many different ways. You don't always know what it looks like, but when you see it, you know it. And that fight, I think, is one that's always worth fighting. That is it for me today. This is absolutely crazy, right? Because a few days ago, we had just talked about false flags, and now here we are with a warning from the mainstream media, from the FBI, that looks, to the discerning eye at the very least, a lot like a false flag. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, if you want to support my work, you can become a member by going to my website, 5149jameslee.com. You can also pick yourself up some merch there. But if you're not able to, no worries at all. Just take a second to like this video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be the first to know when my next video drops. As always, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one.
To all the anti-Seminites, to all the isolationists, I don't believe... Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for.
He said Seminites and Israel's, like he's slurring, like he's pulling a, what's his face, turtle out of Kentucky. What's that guy's name? Yeah. So just an addendum to that too. There was an article I was going to read, but I figured the James Lee video was probably more appropriate. Yeah, you gonna do that? Okay. That Carolyn Leavitt, the mouthpiece for Trump, the press secretary, has come out and said, yeah, that's there's no threat from Iran on the West Coast. So some of these things are so bullshit that even the bullshitters themselves have to come out and say, my bad, sorry, yeah, it's not really a thing. Yeah, so, but that's not going to be the end of it. The more this war keeps moving along, the more bullshit you're going to hear, the more propaganda you're going to hear. So as always, stay frosty, and we'll do our part here to try to cut through the bullshit and try to give you the actual news without too much bias. I am a little biased. I'm biased against evil people. I'm biased against baby killers. I'm not gonna lie. I'm no lawyer, and I, you know, it's like James Lee said, it's, you know, when you see evil, you recognize it, right? So yeah, if you want to, if you haven't done so, go to his site, his YouTube channel, 5149 with James Lee. You know, as I always say, be skeptical, you know, use your critical thinking skills, but so far, you know, he's been on the mark on a lot of things. So, you know, trying to break all this bullshit down. So, anyway, it's time to tell you about our mutual aid for our peeps in the space. Whoa, hello. Justice for Aspen. Of course, she has been caught up in some legal bullshit in Georgia. She was a passenger in a car, and the driver got arrested. And in Georgia law, for some reason, even if you didn't commit a crime, if you're in the car with that person, you're going to get arrested too. So she needs help with legal funds. If you could help her out with that. Whoa, hello. What is going on here? Come on, y'all. That was the night when the lights went out in Georgia. Our buddy Chanda, of course, she's been going through it with her cancer battle, and as we all know, medical bills are expensive as fuck anyway, along with everything else now. Hey, you know, if you could help her out, we appreciate that. Our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his sister-in-law, Natalia, is fighting ICE, fighting extradition, fighting deportation. She's here legally in the United States, and of course, ICE fuckery. So if you could help out, that would be cool too. Our buddy NoliDee, she was a victim of a house fire, and she could use your help too, to try and get back, you know, try to get some stabilization in her life there. And our buddy, of course, Kevin over at Black Bear News, who lost his home in the LA fires last year. Was that last year, or is that 24? I can't remember. It was the Eaton fire there in LA. So, and if you can't donate, obviously, and we understand that, you know, everybody's broke as a joke. If you could share out the links, all the links are down below in the description. If you could share the links out, we appreciate it. And if you know of anybody that is in need of mutual aid, they're dealing with some crisis, that some devastation like that, you know, we're always trying to help people in the space and beyond. Just contact us at ExtraBulla@gmail.com. It's ExtraBulla@gmail.com. Please do so. Let me know. I'll put them up too, so we can spread the word as much as we can to try and help our peeps in the space. So, finally, today. Also, don't forget this knucklehead tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. It's a secret show with silly videos. Some are educational. We try to educate you a little bit in a fun way. And it's a good time to hang out on a Friday night if you got nothing better to do. Come hang out with us on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook. We hang out. It's a good time. Sometimes I wear pants, but I can't make any promises. I never do. I don't want to disappoint people or scare them either. Finally, today, for our fun little kicker to get us some fun news, so it's not all gloom and doom. Oddest unclaimed luggage items of 2025 include a robot and a meteorite. You may have lost something at the airport or something, maybe a jacket or maybe a pair of shoes that you forgot to put back on for some reason. Well, this is some wild shit. Is this a, wait a minute. Yeah, let's watch this. Why not? Let's watch this. This is fun stuff. You can go away. Let's watch this.
Have you ever looked over at a fellow passenger's suitcase and wondered what's inside their bag? Well, Unclaimed Baggage in Scottsboro has released its annual Found Report, revealing some of the most unusual and unexpected items discovered in lost luggage last year. That list includes samurai swords, a frog purse, and a robotic unit. The most common items were clothing and jewelry. Gold was also an increasingly common item in lost luggage, with items like gold bars, gold-plated golf clubs, and a set of gold diamond grills also found in lost bags. And I'm assuming they mean like teeth grills. I'm guessing that's what they meant.
I always travel with my samurai sword. I don't know about you guys.
I wondered about the frog purse.
The frog purse. I gotta see that purse.
So is this a purse that's like shaped like a frog? Or is it a purse that's made from...
Let's hope it's the former and not the latter.
For it to make a headline, I'm afraid it may be the latter. I don't think they'll be selling that one anytime soon.
Yeah. The samurai sword, that's what got me. So yeah, some of the most unusual items found in lost and unclaimed luggage last year included a robot, a bionic knee, a meteorite, and a beekeeping suit. A new report says unclaimed baggage, as they told you in the report there. The U.S.'s only authorized reseller of lost luggage released its third annual found report according to the items lost or abandoned by travelers this year. The most unusual finds from the report included a fully assembled robotic unit featuring fully articulated joints, electric motors, wiring, and control components. So the another unusual piece of mechanical engineering was a powered prosthetic knee joint with an integrated motor, electronic controls, and metal housing. I'm assuming these were in the bags and then the bags got lost, right? It can't be like somebody was just like fucking around. They took their knee off and said, all right, well, yeah, where's my knee? Where did I put my knee? That would be crazy. When found, the model was still in online trial phases, indicating clinical testing or early stage use, according to the report. Some of the other bizarre items in the report included a full set of 10-carat diamond grills. You know, the teeth thing. Hang on a second. A fragment of a meteorite that fell to Earth in 1576, a pair of fire poi used for fire, like the little fire dancing and flow arts, a 1 ounce bar of who's bringing bars of gold and samurai swords from the Perth Mint in Australia, a matching set of samurai swords, a full beekeeping suit, a set of gold-plated golf clubs, and a didgeridoo made from teak wood. That's one of those things you go, That's one of those things. Other notable odd finds including taxidermy, deer foam, the frog purse, like the guy was, we're not sure if it was a purse made out of a frog or if it was a frog made out of a purse. A pre-World War I U.S. Army bayonet. Who's bringing this shit on a giant stuffed goose, a long bone specimen, an armadillo purse, these purses, a 12-pack case of sardines, a fake skeleton, a suitcase full of rat poison, and a feather bow tie. The fuck? The report said the most common items found in 2025 include clothing items, jewelry, cell phones, shoes, device accessories, headphones, coats, tablets, and books. These purses, man, fuck that. That's crazy. Frog purse. You got a fake skeleton. That sounds like a hell of a party, actually, if you want to bring all that shit. So, yeah, gold-plated golf clubs lost near Mar-a-Lago. That's wild. So, you know, word to the wise, don't bring that shit on planes, because chances are they could, if it can get lost, it probably will. So you should probably just maybe ship those if you're going to have to, or maybe just not even take them at all. So I don't know. It's your life. You do what you want. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to help out here. So anywho, that's it for the show today. Again, reminder, we are doing the secret show tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget, our buddies at Chicago Corner Network are continuing their interviews with candidates for office in Illinois. So if you want to check that out, I think the next one is going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe, on the Chicago Corner Network. And check out their other interviews that they've been doing this week, too. Some very thought-provoking stuff. And these, you know, some real questions and some real answers. Some of them, at first they seemed a little like, well, let me give you the political answer. And then they kind of warm up a little bit and start giving you the real stuff. That's the thing. I like people who just keep it real, right? Don't give me this political speak. I don't want to hear that bullshit. Give me the meat and taters, let me, just keep it real. And of course, our buddy, Yona over on Rumble, he's got the Peasants podcast, number 133 coming up this Monday, 420, 7:20 Eastern, 7:20 p.m. Eastern, 4:20 Pacific time. And that's on Rumble, right? For the Peasants podcast. Yona's got some good stuff over there. So thank you, everybody. Love each and every one of you. You'll see me again, maybe over the weekend, doing some gaming with Diablo 3. Come hang out and watch me kill fake monsters and pretend that they're real monsters that are existing in this world today. Otherwise, I will be back Wednesday morning with Miss Laine Petersen for the Undercurrent. We're currently up to 67 subscribers on the Undercurrent. So if you're not subscribed, please do so. It's the Undercurrent for YOU on your local YouTubes there. And then we'll be doing this show again next week at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. On YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and now on Substack. So if you're on Substack, you can watch us there. If you're kind of feeling icky about watching us on YouTube or wherever, come join us on Substack. It's we're doing it there too. We are Ronin. Bum 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 bum. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Cornbread and Roses on Sunday nights too. With the Alabama DSA, I think is that the name of the channel? Put your Ronan, put your link in the thing in the chat. Yona, you could do that too. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks everybody. Love each and every one of you. I appreciate it. If you want to donate to my show, you could do super chats. So we have Patreon, but we also do Cash App and all this other stuff. All that stuff's linked down below. You can see the crawl right here that has that stuff too. It's all appreciated. If you can't do it, I understand. No worries. I'm not going to sit here and beg you for money like other people do in this space. But if you want to donate and you can, every little bit helps. So take care, everybody. Appreciate you. There it is. North Alabama DSA Cornbread and Roses. Yes. And then Monday with Yona too. We try to help out our peeps in the space. So there it is. Rumble.com /C/ /C/C-1611552. Very good. Yes. And support this channel. I could take a like and subscribe. I'm not proud. I have no pride whatsoever. Love you guys. Take care. See you when we see you. Peace.
This is SETI Alpha 5. Woo!
Soon.